It should come as no surprise when I say that most men and women alive right now are dissatisfied with their dating lives. There are many reasons that I could give for it. I could talk about Tinder and the paradox of choice. I could talk about social media giving us unrealistic expectations for ourselves and for others. I could talk about the change in gender roles and the confusion around what it means to be a man or a woman in the modern world. And I do try to tackle many of these reasons in my various videos. But there has been one constant problem for men and women which has been present at least the last 3 decades and only appears to be getting worse. Men and women walk around with very specific wounds from our childhoods around dating and sex. And until we, as individuals, manage to accept and heal these wounds, we're going to be constantly dating from a massive disadvantage. Simply put, most men and women are doomed to suffer until they see this wound in themselves and in the opposite gender. Just understanding the wounds that I'll present in this video should make many of the frustrating behaviors you've seen in the opposite gender suddenly make a lot more sense. As always, if you like this video, it helps me a ton with YouTube rankings when you smash the like button, comment, and subscribe. I know many of my videos have historically been directed at men. I'd like to talk about both men and women today, because I think it helps both genders in their dating journeys to better understand what the opposite gender goes through. Especially in this instance, because so much of the frustrating behaviors men and women come up against is a direct result of us trying to manage specific gender common wounds. Okay, so let me get right to the point now. If you're watching this video and you're a cis male, that is, you were born a man, you identify as a man, and you like women, I'm 90% sure you suffer right now with a particular type of pain. A pain that originates early in your life, probably starting around the age of 13 or so. It's the pain of feeling like women don't think you're good enough to have sex with. Right now, how many of you felt a jab in the gut when you heard those words? It's that feeling that maybe women will like being around you and very much enjoy your jokes and your emotional support, but in spite of how much value you offer to their lives, you still aren't good enough to want to have sex with. While that absolute a-hole who treats her like rubbish gets all the sex in the world. I personally know this wound. It followed me around for decades. It followed me around even when I was getting laid like a rock star. It was like I had to keep sleeping with more and more women to remind myself that I wasn't that guy anymore who wasn't good enough for sex. And while this pain is so familiar to most men, most women have no idea how much pain and frustration and self-esteem destruction this pain does to so many men. As a result, many of us men are walking around trying to nurture this pain. We push for sex quickly because we're horny, but also because we want to salve the pain of not being good enough for sex. The massive validation many men get from sex with a new woman is the result of that pain being temporarily dulled by a reminder that you are good enough for sex. I'd argue this drives the lion's share of men's cheating habits. I'd argue this drives a good bit of sexual assault. I'd argue this drives a good bit of adult male depression. I don't believe men are that much hornier than women. I think our neediness around dating and sex is guided by this teenage wound that most of us walk around with. How does this resonate and make you feel, guys? Let me know in the comments below so that women watching can get an idea of just how many men resonate here. So how about cis women? That is, your sex at birth was female, you identify as a female, and you are attracted to men. Surely straight women don't have that same wound. And you're right, of course they don't. Most women have another deeply painful wound that drives their behaviors. Most women walk around with the painful feeling which begins again around the age of 13. It's the painful feeling that they're only valuable humans if they look sexy and have sex. That they're not good enough to want to connect with and get to know. That their brains and personalities are worthless, at least to men. They grow up offering men platonic, yet loving connection and companionship. And if there's no sex attached, men will often throw everything in the garbage and walk away. And this hurts, and it doesn't stop hurting. Women, if you're watching this and this resonates with you, say so in the comments below, because if I know for a fact that so many of my male viewers aren't aware just how common this painful wound is for most women. So you have women out there in the dating world feeling like their value as human beings is constantly under attack by men. They have to start changing dating strategies to protect themselves. Some women, especially younger ones, resort to a strategy of seeking validation through sex. If they keep putting out sex with men, they'll get a quasi-emotional connection with him, which of course is short-lived and impossible to maintain and eventually results in pain once again. This validation seeking is often exploited by the men who hurt women the most. Those who learned to love bomb validation-starved women until they get sex, then quickly lose interest. Every time a woman comes against this behavior, the wound hurts more. Whether you're a man or a woman, if you're walking around the dating world desperate for emotional or sexual validation, then you're in trouble. You're in trouble because desperate people make poor choices. You're in trouble because desperate people are destined to perpetually hurt themselves or hurt others. Or usually both. Desperate people are wide open to abuse and manipulation. I can promise you one thing. If you're a man or a woman, and I worked with both extensively, seeking validation via sex or dating cannot fix that wound for you. It's like you're walking around with a festering infection, and getting validation from the opposite sex is akin to taking some morphine. It helps to forget about the pain for a while, but ultimately you still have a festering infection. You need to take some time to get some help. And I won't lie, it will take time. You have to look inwards and slay some demons that have set up shop in your psyche for most of your life. But this is how true self-development works. I work with men and women on this and many other parts of your shadows. Those parts of yourselves that play a silent role in controlling your lives. And I do this in one-on-one Zoom coaching sessions. And I'll put a link below if you'd like to book some with me. But I'm not the only person who can help you with this. You can also find a good therapist, which are really hard to find, by the way, and I think maybe I'll do a video entirely dedicated to how to find a good therapist. Alternatively, you could find a great men's or women's group, but you've got to find a way to get others to support you in looking inward and healing your wounds, because you'll never find true satisfaction in dating until you do. Turning to dating once these wounds are healed will be a completely different game. You'll behave differently. Different kinds of people will seek you out. The game playing and manipulation that seem to be so common will appear to evaporate as a result. But again, this doesn't happen without hard work. There are no silver bullets here, and I promise you that now is the time to start working on it. If you've enjoyed my content and you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That way, I get to see you again in my next video.